welcome to the Ascension Series. My name is Stephen North and I'm here with Jenny Schiltz, and our focus is on delivering information that is regarding the Ascension and topics to help people regain their self-mastery. So what I'm going to do now is introduce Jenny and get her to talk about herself.
Hey, Steve.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. So one of the things I want to talk to you about, I had a really amazing experience last week. I was just beginning to wake up, but I was completely awake, kind of doing that whole laying in bed, not really wanting to move thing. And I noticed in front of my third eye was a door. And it was this very ornate circular metal door with markings on it. And I'm seeing it, and I realized that I'm, like, etherically, I'm standing in front of this door, and I'm standing there just waiting for it to open. And it wasn't opening. And I hear very clearly, put your hand on it. And I kind of felt silly, and I was like, okay. And I put my hand on it, and it slides open. And I was like, wow. And I go out, and I look, and I'm into a room, and there's seats, and there's windows everywhere. And I realize that I'm on a ship. And I'm on basically like an observation deck. And I see my highest aspect there, and I go walking up to her, and I'm like, what's going on? And she's showing me the earth below, and there are ships everywhere, more than I ever thought possible. And it's amazing to me that we don't really see them in our skies, that there's so much cloaking going on. And so when I did ask her, I said, are we looking at mass landings? Because I had read a couple channelings and from some people that said mass landings were going to happen. And even though it didn't resonate, I thought, well, let me ask. And she said, no. She said, there will not be mass landings anytime soon because of the fact that it would create mass panic and fear. We're such a conditioned society that it would be like Independence Day if ships landed. Everyone would want to go to war with them. There would be no dialogue or discussion because there would be just so much fear. So what I was being told was that there is a lot of contact being made right now. And it's basically on individual basis, group basis. And this is through like meditations. This is through dreams. This is through journeying. And that's how they're getting their messages out. That's how they're starting to normalize working with beings outside space and time.
Yep.
So I thought that was really fascinating, and it was really neat to see. And then at that point, Sananda and a few of the other masters, Kuan Yin, comes walking in, and members of my team, ones that I work with all the time, come walking in, and I was really happy to see them, mainly because the clarity of this particular experience was high def. I mean, there was no fuzziness. It was unbelievable. And so I'm talking to Sananda, and he's telling me that there's a little bit of a problem going on. That quite a few people have gotten lost in all the chaos that's been going on the planet, in the United States in particular with the election. And so he went on to talk about the issue of the savior complex. And part of the savior complex is that there are groups that firmly believe that ships are going to come and land and take them off planet. And what he was saying to me is that is no different than the Christian rapture. Because neither one allows us to take full responsibility for our creations and to clean up our own messes.
The magic pill. The
magic pill, exactly. And, so it's also, not only is it just kind of the easy way out to say, okay, well, a ship's going to come and take me, it also gives away our power. It gives away our own power to say, no, I can change my reality. I can change my day-to-day, and then once I change my day-to-day, then I can work on extending it further and then further and further until I'm really actually moving and shifting what we consider reality. If we feel that someone's coming to save us, we're not going to do that work to become that master. And that's part of the problem. Then you have the whole elitist thing, because whether it's ships are coming to take me off or it's the Christian rapture, it's very much the belief that I am special, I am better than, and therefore I will be saved, and the rest of the world be damned. And that's not really accurate.
No.
So I go ahead.
I've seen this over the past few years, this sort of thoughts and mentalities and how Christ is returning and he's going to save humanity and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah. And it really is the giving over of your power to someone else. And then he talked about there's another aspect to the Savior complex that quite a few of us have entertained, and I know myself I have, and that's that being the Savior to someone else. And the issue is that if you wrap yourself up into, I have to save people, the one that you're not saving is you.
I have experienced that in firsthand.
Yeah. I think we all have. I think it's a phase of this where you start to understand things and you go, I can help people, I can save them. But in many ways, I look back at my personal experience and I see that those times where I was in that savior mode, I was really just not dealing with my own crap. It was so much easier to help someone else than to help myself.
Yep.
And then as I finally sat back and said, okay, this is killing me. It's killing me financially to do this. It's killing me energetically, emotionally. This isn't working for me. And I started to shift, and then I started to deal with my own stuff. I was able to then come from this other place of, we all have lessons, and to save someone from their lesson means it's a softer lesson, and softer lessons are longer lessons. So
what I learned from that was that by taking away someone's lessons, you're intervening with the whole process.
Exactly. Well, and you could be making it longer. So, here where, you think you're doing all this great stuff, you're making life easier for someone, but what if in the end it means that the lessons have to continue and maybe even get stronger for the person to see their own stuff? And me wanting to save them for my own selfish purposes then inhibited their own learning.
There was an experience that I had just this weekend, I believe, and one of the biggest concerns when I was talking to this person was that I was taking away their lessons. If I stood in and did something about it.
Yeah.
And I had to sit on the fence for quite some time because I just went, am I taking away this person's lessons, and is this person meant to do it themselves?
Right. And because if we view ourselves as a savior, and whether this is on a spiritual context or just, when I was doing that, it was with a neighbor. I was always bailing the neighbor out. I was always helping her, lending her my car, doing this, doing that, to my own detriment. So when I was doing that, I really, it wasn't so much that I was even seeing that she needed these lessons. I was doing it so that I felt better. So that I felt that I had a purpose and I was helpful. But that was really all about me and not all about her.
Yep. I understand that. My experience was, and there's a story that's attached to this going that I tried to save this one particular soul during the portal of Atlantis. I've been trying to save her ever since.
Yeah.
And whilst it's just a story, what I found is that I kept trying to be supportive and always be there for this person and not really there for myself. That whole friendship ended up being so terrible and pulling away that what led after that, when I would say the ending of that friendship, brought on the death of ego.
Oh, that's very interesting. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
It was a very unstable period of time during that during that friendship. It was very interesting. Like, I was watching myself just buying gifts because he wanted to feel important, or buying love, and really wasn't, like, you don't even understand it. And that's what I find interesting, is that you don't understand what you're doing when you're doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Very, very fascinating.
But if you take that step back and you go, okay, what am I really doing here, and who am I doing it for?
Yeah.
And that was when I realized I was doing all this for myself. I mean, technically I was helping other people, but I was completely doing it to make myself feel better because I was lacking. I mean,
and you wouldn't think of it. That's what I find so interesting, is that at that moment in time, we weren't experiencing it. We wouldn't have the awareness to know that we were doing it.
Exactly.
And that's what I find so intriguing.
Yeah. And I think, well, particularly as healers, it's a lesson you have to go through so that later on you have discernment, and then you can step back and say, okay, this is their lesson. And, you know, people misinterpret these type of things when they're said to mean, well, what do you mean you don't help people? No, it's very similar to when there's a homeless person on the street. I very rarely will ever give money because the thought is, well, they might use it for drugs or something like that. But I'll give you a hat. I'll give you a granola bar and a water bottle.
Yeah.
And that's help and not enabling.
Yes.
So it's not that you ignore those in need. You just make sure that you're not feeding into whatever their issue is so that they can step back and see it.
Yes. Yes.
So it's really interesting to me how things are shifting, because what is being asked of us, and it's not even really that it's being asked of us, this is what we signed up for. This is the experience that we wanted, to go through this ascension process. And that has to be realized as well. Things are not being done to us, whether it's the energy phases, whether it's the density clearing, they're not being done to us. These are things that we agreed upon prior to coming in, things that we agreed upon experiencing, whether they're fun or not. But, back to the scenario with Sananda. So he's explained to me, he said, too many are getting lost in wanting to either save another or think that they're going to be saved in some way, shape, or form or capacity. And they're actually losing the path of self-mastery. Because the minute you give your power over, or you don't see the beauty in somebody else's experience, even if you don't agree with it, it's the minute you're giving your power away. And this entire process is about learning how to walk in your power in form.
Mm-hmm.
It's about learning to bring that soul in completely in form.
Mm-hmm.
So, so he was explaining to me, he said, it's a real issue. And he was saying many people got very lost in the negativity that's been floating around. It's rough out there right now. Some of the hate and the anger and the frustration is coming out in such a way that it's causing harm, and people are getting wrapped up in it. And when they're wrapped up in that, they're not working on themselves. If you're not in a place of openness and acceptance and these codes come in, you're not receiving them.
Yes, true.
So if you're so wrapped up in everyone is evil, this whole world is a mess, and I want off, you're not receiving everything that you're supposed to be receiving at that time, and then you start to fall behind. And then when you open yourself back up, it's like you get whammied with a tidal wave and it knocks you down.
Mm-hmm.
So that was part of what he was saying. He said, people need to return back to center, back to, understanding that everything that's happening now, no matter how ugly it looks, is absolutely necessary for progression forward. Things sometimes have to fall apart. Things sometimes have to get ugly. but it doesn't mean we need to get lost in it.
Well, the time of greatest change is in the middle of an emotional upheaval, so it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And so, he said to me, this message needs to get out. And, when you and I talked about it and agreed to do this podcast is one way to get this message out. To help move people back to the walking in their own power, That's the really important message here, is that we have to take control of ourselves, our emotions, of our own destiny, and realize that we are literally the most important person in our own lives and how things go. It's not a president, it's not a government, it's not the banks, it's not any of that. You're the most important person. Are there factors going on that's out there designed to make you feel powerless? Absolutely.
Yes, the distractor systems, or whatever they call it.
Yeah. I mean, yes. There's a lot going on right now.
And that's all of a sudden I find myself putting on more and more workshops. Like, I went from doing 1 a fortnight to doing 4 a week.
Mm-hmm.
I think this week we just started the deprogramming, decoding the human mind in order to try and really dig into the ego construct, or the human mind aspect, to deprogram it and move us into the God consciousness, so that we can try and make a greater impact on what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I'm being pushed more into the role of empowering, and so my services have changed to the point now where I'm helping people clear, and I'm activating them and to get them so that they can get to this next level and they can get over their stuff. And with that is, we talked before about the soul retrievals, getting people's parts back, because we are fractured. We are, this experience on Earth has been very difficult on us, and we do have parts that can be out and about. And here we are, we're trying to bring in a soul, but we're not completely whole. And it makes a lot of issues. And then we keep creating in our current reality scenarios to show where things are lacking. So it's really fascinating, because everything is being driven to, can we put away the mind? Can we make you whole? Can we get you empowered so that you truly see who you are, so that you can really walk in your mastery?
Yeah. One of the things that I find interesting, and it's something that I've noticed, is that when we get to these, I'm going to talk about the teaching aspect, when people are sitting there promoting these old methods, these old teachings of come to me, I'll fix you, and you spend these thousands of dollars, it seems like they're just spitting in the face of those that have walked this path, and then, those that we refer to as masters. I had a discussion with someone recently, and they were forcing their opinions onto me, and I'm saying, well, no, that is not the way. It was like they were just spitting in the face. And it's like there seems to be a lot of, I'm not sure a lot of, it's just in my own observations that people are not understanding what these old teachings are and what the new teachings are. It's like they're just going, well, this is the way it's been and this is the way it will be, and you have people trying to create the revolution and they're bringing in the new information, and it's a lot more harder. Like, we can go back and look at Pharaoh Akhenaten, who had the task of bringing in the belief of one God again. And if we bring ourselves back to today, we've got the teachers bringing in the new information, the masters bringing in the new information, and this same information is also being delivered in the spirit guide realm, which is also trying to create the revolution as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even things like, we look at the chakras. At one point they were all spinning clockwise, and then the next point it was like, okay, they shifted and they were starting to go counterclockwise, and then you eventually get to a point where they're pulsing, and there's healers out there who are saying, no, your chakras are going the wrong way, and they're literally trying to spin them in a way that they think is appropriate. And when I do a chakra class, I'm telling people, I'm like, put your hand on someone's chakra and ask the angels to show you exactly what the chakra should be doing for where the person is in their growth and development.
Yes.
Allow that to be your guide, instead of this blanket. This is what is happening.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and when people do that, they're like, oh, and so they're realizing that, some people are spinning one way, some people are spinning another, some people are no longer spinning.
One of the things, and this is why I stopped, I can't remember where it was. It was at a little psychic fair, and I had a little booth there. And I was just doing my own thing, and people weren't responsive to what I was doing, so I pretty much sat there and having a chat to one of the channelers that were there all day long, doing psychic readings and stuff. And she was saying, I was overhearing a conversation, and the lady walked in, she goes, I'm coming in, and my work is all about getting people's chakra spinnings, and, a lot of people are coming in with, their base chakra not spinning, so I spin it back up. And I really had to bite my tongue, because watching the teachings that are coming through now, a lot of the chakras have stopped.
Mm-hmm.
And my first thought was, if I have someone that was going to say, I'm going to stop your chakra stopped, I'm going to spin it back up again, I'd rather punch them in the face kind of thing, because it's like, well, you've just cleared out all your lifetimes of karma and debt, and that's why it stopped, because in the solar plexus and the heart chakra is where all your wounds are.
Yeah.
So if you've cleared it out, you don't want to spin it back up again, because you've got to do it all over again. So that's a theory that I heard somewhere.
It makes, I don't know if that's accurate or not. But it makes a lot of sense. I know that, I used to take a pendulum and check my chakras every morning. This is back like 2012, 13, and I was so enthralled with the chakras. I didn't know anything about them prior to that. And all of a sudden one day they were all going the other direction, and I was panicked. What had I done wrong? I totally went into my mind of, how is this possible that they were one day all going clockwise and now they're all going counterclockwise? So I sat there trying to get them to spin back the other direction, and I kid you not, it was like an hour. And then finally, it was as if the guys were looking at me like shaking their head, like, are you kidding me, lady? And they said, will you stop? Leave them alone. And I'm like, oh, so there's not anything wrong? They're like, no, there wasn't. And so then they had to go back to being clockwise. Back to being counterclockwise at that time. And then they stayed that way for a very long time, and I stopped checking them, It was just something that really enthralled me at the time. And then, we were talking to, I guess it was Rebecca Dawson, and she was talking about, she's like, they pulse. And I got out my pendulum, and I was like, holy crap, they do pulse. And it just depends on where you're at in this evolution. And that's what this is. This is evolution. We haven't done this before. So everything that we've learned before isn't necessarily going to match up, because we're changing so much.
Yeah.
So it's very much, okay, we've got to stop giving over our power to other people and their beliefs, even if it made sense at a time. But if it no longer makes sense for you, let it go.
It's very interesting you say that, because my very first time that I met Rebecca Dawson, she noticed that my energy system was not kind of in alignment. So when I had a session with her, what they had to do was rebuild my entire energy field. Well, not entire. They had to repair the energy field, because the healers that had worked on it had never come across this energy type before, and did whatever thinking it was human.
Oh, very interesting.
So what she saw was that around the head area or whatever, it was completely out of alignment, so they had to repair it. So because they didn't know what had been done. So that was one of the very important moments one of the many important moments that on my journey.
I'm sure.
And when she did the channeling session, she was saying that the reason why that had happened is because the people had not seen this energy type before. So they don't know what they're dealing with, so they just assumed that it was normal like everyone else.
Right. Right.
The human, the incarnate, like the mind level of the incarnate was just not aware of it.
Right, and it just because they haven't encountered it before. And we look at these children that have come in, and energetically they're different. And
yeah,
if we try to change them into what we think is normal, we're going to mess them up.
I've been through that path.
So we've got to kind of make a new normal, and then realize that normal is going to change too, because we haven't done this before.
Yeah.
And it's very much the flexibility of allowing things to shift and change as they need to, instead of putting dogma on it. The ascension process does not need to become a new religion. And I see where people are doing that, where people have created dogma. Well, you must not do this and you must not do that. And there were things that totally worked for me that may not work for someone else. And that's what we have to realize. But if I told someone, well, pineapple juice is what you need to get you through this particular phase, it worked for me. But just because it worked for me doesn't mean it's going to work for you. But if I told you in no uncertain circumstances that it's going to work for you, it then becomes a dogma, and it stops you from listening to you.
Yes. And I've walked this path as well, when you become very reliant on what other people say rather than what you believe.
Absolutely.
And I think this is where they turn around and say, go within, because you've got the information on yourself, because you're the authority on who you are.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And to think that we're all the same, energetically and systematically, it's not really accurate. We are all one, yes. We're all expressions of Source exploring itself, but maybe we're slightly different expressions of Source.
One of the things that I asked, because it triggered me, because like the whole topic of spirit guides is self-guiding self, and I just went, well, hang on a second. If self is guiding self, why do all these things have different personalities, different experiences? So I did a channeling session with Jocelyn Joy, and she was with the Father God, and he was saying that it's true. And both these aspects is true, is that yes, we are all Source, and it is a case of self-guiding self, but it's like saying the Archangels, they're all the same, but they all have different personalities, so it is Source guiding Source, but they also have the experience of individual journeys, individual experiences, individual personalities.
But that makes complete sense. Because we're not the only ones experiencing self. So are the guides, so are the angels, so are the Galactic Federation of Light, so we all are. And I went into a meeting at one point with the Galactic Federation, and the message is we're all walking each other home. We're all on our way back to Source should we choose to go. We're just different expressions of Source. And it was really neat, because in this particular meeting they said, never put any of us on a pedestal. We're no different than you. And for me it was a really interesting experience. And they said, if I ever come in contact with a being who wants to put themselves above me, turn my back. Because the ones that are really beneficial and for me are ones that don't see themselves above me. They see it as a team. We're in this together. And that's been a really important guiding lesson through my journey of learning how to channel and see and hear. And it's one that I've kept with me. And I will say that only at the very beginning did I have those who wanted to dominate and be better than, and then I just discarded them and went on my way. So they really didn't give me any major trouble. But if I had given in and seen them as better than me, they would have stuck around to teach me a lesson.
That's very interesting, because I've had I actually, when I got introduced to Amy, I started putting her on a pedestal, and she turned around and said, no, do not, we are the same. So I want you to introduce me as Amy North, because as we are twin flames, we can be married together in this incarnation as spirit and incarnate. Okay. So, and then she said, another thing that I've learned in this incarnation is that you are the same, and that, you know, all the Ascended Masters and all the angels and all this thing are just brothers and sisters.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Rather than, you know, it's like they're there in spirit form, bringing us information to teach us more, to help us, to guide us home. And they've said themselves, so Rebecca Dawson, that there will come a time in the planet's evolution that there will be no need for the Ascended Masters, and they'll come in and incarnate and join us in the party.
Makes sense. You know, and you and I have both come across those who hold aspects of the Ascended Masters already.
Yeah.
We come across quite a few.
It's blown my mind. You know, it's like you sit there and you think that there's one incarnation of one specific Ascended Master, but then you find that there are many.
Many. And if we can look at it, instead of it being a person, let's say Kuan Yin, instead of her being this particular one person, what if her energy is a signature that it can then be given to multiple people so that they can then embody that particular energy signature?
You know what? This is something that I learned 2 years ago, when there was this one, everyone was really caught up in this group into past lives. I was this person in this past life, and they're always trying to outdo each other in each past life. Like, and one person goes, well, I was Mother Mary in a past life, and about 40 other people were saying that they were Mother Mary. And I just sat there in one drunken night, and I was just, by the way, I don't drink anymore, but I was really drunk, and I started to sit there going, there's something really wrong about this. Okay, so let's assume that this past life regression that they did bring up the memories of Mother Mary, but there's like 40 other people. There had to be a school. So what I saw was that Mother Mary is running the school in the Magdalenes, and she is sharing aspects of herself and her memories to these people, so these people can go and teach others.
It makes sense to me.
So when they do this past life regression, they pick up on her memories, because they're coming from like that aspect of themselves is shared with many.
Yeah, that does make sense. You know, but I think as part of this phase, and you may have gone to this phase, I know I did, is what I call the angelic phase, to where you realize that you too hold angelic energies. And for me, it was Archangel Raphael, and I actually merged with him. And I was told very clearly by the guides, do not stop here, because you are so much more than just him. You are so many more different aspects out there. And so I find it interesting, because I do see where people are like, but no, I know that I am Archangel Michael, or I know I am this. And I'm not going to ever tell them they're not, because they are, but they're also more.
Mm-hmm.
So it's... Gosh,
I can tell you my first introduction to Archangel Michael, holy crap, that was something different. I think it was around February last year that someone was able to identify a portal within my energy field, and he turned around and said to me, and when he was like working on it, and he goes, I don't really work with archangels, but Archangel Michael is coming really strong, really, really strong for you right now, and he's cleared it out. So this portal got removed from my energy field, and I was in the process of like recovering, because it was a very big shift for me. Mm-hmm. So let's just say that was on a Monday. On a Wednesday, I drive down to a Reiki share circle, and that, you know, the person who did the clearing and the person who's running this Reiki share got talking on the phone, and they put me on the spot, saying, you know, let's get Steve on the main area and get him to share what he does. And I'm like, oh crap, I'm on the main, I've just been high spotlighted, so what do I do? So I kind of decided to wing it, and someone jumped on the table, and, you know, so I started, you know, breathing together with them, which I don't do anymore. And what the idea was to merge energy fields so I can actually feel what's going on in their energy field. And I started coughing in a specific area. So I then went to their solar plexus or whatever region around the stomach area, and I put my hands there, and all of a sudden this huge energy just comes screaming into me, and I started sweating. And it's like, when I give Reiki, it's like the tap turned on, but this thing was just something phenomenal. I'd never expected it. So that was okay. Everyone was like, yeah, you do something different, that's fine, yep, whatever. And then the following night in the same area, they decided to do introduction to the Archangels. So this medium that was calling them in and saying, this is Archangel Raphael, this is Archangel Samuel. And then when she turned around and said, this is Archangel Michael, and called them in, that same energy that walked into me hit me again. And I just went, oh my gosh, you've got to be kidding me. So we then did an Archangel, and this is when I just started really discovering who my spirit guides were, who my connection was. So we did an Archangel Michael reading, and Archangel Michael turns around and goes, yes, that clearing was an assignment left over from a previous lifetime. That was all okay. You'll soon learn that we've worked in many places, all over the universes and omniverses and whatever you want to call it. And he goes, and if necessary, if need be, I will walk in and do the work with as a walk-in into you. And it really spun me out.
I bet it did.
I'm going, what the heck? So when you're sitting there saying that we're all aspects, it's like I truly believe it, because it's just remarkable, and we're all one in the end.
Yeah. And we can get really stuck on it, and it's funny, it's like, you can get stuck in the ego with it of but I am Archangel Michael, and then you totally mess yourself up.
Yeah.
Instead of realizing, okay, this is an aspect of me, fantastic, thank you, and move on with it and incorporate into who you are.
It was only 2 weeks ago maybe a little bit longer, when I was having a conversation with another friend of mine, and we were talking, and I mentioned the name Lady Portia. She says, I am Lady Portia, and my twin flame is Saint Germain. And then I mentioned Lady Nida, and she's also Lady Nida is an aspect of myself. And I just went, what?
But that makes total sense to me.
Yeah.
And the way that they described it to me was that we each have petals to our soul, and we incorporate themes, masters, guides into our soul. So, and the reason I say it's themes is because one of mine is the Divine Mother. It's the Blessed Mother. But to another culture, it's not Mother Mary. The Divine Mother is someone else. But it's the same theme.
The same consciousness.
Same consciousness, just different names. Our human mind wants to label it and classify it and, slap a Walmart sticker on it. But that's not how it works. It's an energy stream. We're so used to the solid and the physical and individual beings that we don't always get energy streams. But the same energy of the Blessed Mother is the same energy of the Divine Mother in another culture.
When I had a random session that wasn't even planned, but may have been planned, but may not have been planned, I don't know, with one of the Aboriginal elders, what she said to me struck me as absolutely profound, and it really triggered something within me going, I need to look further into this. What she turned around and said is that she said a name. She says, there's someone behind me, and mentioned the Aboriginal name and said, this is one of our ancestors. You know him as Sanat Kumara. And I just went, whoa. Would they have been around for the Aboriginals are the first human race on this planet, and they're the guardians, and they're referring to the Ascended Masters as the original names that the Aboriginals gave them. And that struck me as absolutely amazing.
Wow.
So, they just refer to them as ancestors, and that's it.
Right. But that makes sense, because it's our human brain that wants to quantify and label, and the labeling creates more problems than what you could ever imagine.
One of the teachings that Amy introduced me to when we were talking about spirit guides and consciousness and everything else like this is that when we create a new culture, when we create new deities, the consciousness is applied, but they are given a different form. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that we look at is the Mother Mary, is that Mother Mary is Kuan Yin, is the goddess, is Red Tara, is White Tara, is Green Tara. Archangel Michael is also known as Manjushri, and it just keeps going and going and going and going. And one of the things in this Archangel Michael said, he goes, yes, Apollo is a guide for you, but what if you feel into the energy that him and I are both the same? We are the same consciousness.
Right.
And I'm just going, wow. Everything is just so simple. It's all the same. And I reckon if we apply the doTERRA multi-level marketing scheme, it just goes back into oneness.
We're all part of a multi-level marketing scheme. Oh, that's fantastic. Can I sell you some dish detergent?
But it's all wisdom and knowledge. It just keeps going back and back and back to the one area, to the one consciousness. And it's like we're just trading in wisdom.
That is essentially it. It really is. The problem is that the human gets involved and then things get messed up, and then you have people saying, but no, I'm this person and I'm that person, instead of realizing, like, dude, we're so much more. Like, I don't even think we can truly comprehend who we are. I don't think we have that ability at this point in time to see our complete vastness.
I'd been told something by Rebecca Dawson, which I'm not going to mention here, and she goes, oh my gosh, I've not seen this much light before. And she goes, you have the soul blueprint of XYZ. So I go to Amy and I said, what do you think of using this, the reference point of XYZ in our marketing, in our advertising? You know, to kind of try and say, you know, we've got this is our credibility, or because everyone wants credibility or something, you know, the what's your bragging rights kind of thing. And Amy goes, I really like that idea, but it's very limiting. Mm-hmm. So don't. And I'm like, wow.
They had said to me, they said, you know, I'm kind of going, I can feel, I knew I'm changing. I'm still changing. The work that I'm doing now, because it used to be I just did readings. And then now I'm doing extractions, activations, clearing of past lives, and I'm doing the soul retrievals. And I'm like, I was talking to them and I'm saying, I'm changing and I don't know how to classify myself. And they just kept saying, stop trying. Because if you classify yourself, you're putting yourself in a box. And I'm going to tell you, my box is wide open right now because I am seriously changing in every moment. The abilities that are coming forth they're just amazing. And I'm finding they're coming forth. They're coming forth whenever it's needed with a particular client. Like,
yeah. Yep, totally get it. You just, I get it. Okay, I'll shut up now because, I totally get it.
Yeah, so, if we put ourselves in a box, if we label ourselves a certain way, then we're limiting our own potential.
This is where I've been and I know we're really name dropping this person today, where I've been so grateful of having the friendship with Rebecca Dawson.
Yeah.
Because when I was doing my business case for, to get the government funding so I can no longer work for the unemployment scheme and try and focus on developing this business and learning about business and how to do business cases and all this sort of stuff, marketing plans, advertising, one of the biggest one of the biggest issues that I had was, how the heck do I advertise? How do I define myself? And I ended up having a discussion with Rebecca Dawson as like a mentor kind of thing, going, how do you do it? Because the biggest problem that I had was that here we are developing a fifth dimensional business, trying to make it fit into a third dimensional structure, and it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. Because one of the things that she has always said is the best thing for you is to stay undefinable.
Right.
Because the moment you start trying to define something, the moment you start putting limitations on what you do.
And that makes total sense. And we've totally gotten off topic of like the savior complex, which is what you and I do all the time, and that just makes us wonderful. But if you think about it, we can wrap that back around, because if we're limiting ourselves, whether it's in our own definitions and what we're accepting in, we're not walking in our full power. And if we're not walking in our full power, we can give our power to someone else.
Yes.
So it's really interesting, because I think it's phases of awakening, to be honest with you. And I can see where at one point in time I labeled myself a certain way, and how none of that fits anymore.
One of the things that I started doing is that when people ask me, what is it that you do? I reply with, I don't know, but I'm Stephen North.
Right? I don't know what I do. I don't know. It just comes to me, and but there's so much truth to that, because when you are the channel, when you are the ones that the guides can work through, whether it's doing, etheric healings, or whether it's, working on to get some divine information for a person, you are simply the channel. Yeah, and one of the things that I have discovered is that generally I find out what I'm doing about 6 months after I've been doing it. Like, here we are, and we're talking about, like, the microphone to the universe crystal, and it's like 6 months after I've been doing them that I realize that they have their own torus field. Right. And I'm like going, oh, this makes sense, because my entire concept was put something spinning in the middle, funnel in, funnel out, done. And then I look at it and go, oh, it's a torus field. Whoops. Right. So, it's very much winging it by the seat of your pants. Yeah, and we don't need to define ourselves, so we don't need to give our power away. We just need to have fun and explore. Right. And what really, and this is going back to those that are giving their power away, is because I've done it as well. You see this person that's advertising this greatest healer, the world's greatest, strongest, most powerful healer, and you can have a session with him for something like $7,000 and he'll fix you up, he'll fix you good for, in 1 to 3 sessions. He'll cure all your conditions and cure all this stuff so you can have your life. So you throw them this money, and it's like, I got nothing. And all I saw was that I just had a major lesson in trying to find a magic pill. Mm-hmm. Well, it's the same thing like with soul retrievals. So, I can bring back a person's parts. I can go into the realms, I can get the parts, I can blow them back into the person's heart and crown chakra. But I can't make one of those aspects stay. So if you're someone who a childhood piece left because there was domestic violence in the home, and that piece just couldn't handle the noise, and most of us as children couldn't handle the intensity of this earth. Most of us had childhood pieces that just kind of said, forget this place, and split off. So, but let's say, this piece left because mom and dad were at each other's throats and there was domestic violence in the home. But in your life now, you've created a very similar situation in your home. If I try to bring back that child to you, I can tell you right now, if I was the kid, I wouldn't stay, because nothing has changed. So interesting. The thing is that people have to realize that they have to do the work. So, one of my pieces, kind of split off because it didn't feel loved. It didn't feel appreciated. It was one of my 30-year-old pieces, actually. It was, after a car accident and feeling like it was a burden on my entire family. This piece just said to me, she said, I just don't want to be a burden. I don't want to love. I just want to be loved. And I don't want to hold my family down. And it's so funny because I remember at that stage really feeling that. And at that time, a piece split off. The piece that was saying, you know, I don't want to continue life as a burden because I hadn't been prior to that. And that piece said, forget it. I don't want to be a burden. I'm splitting off. And then I continued on in my healing, my own healing process. So when I had my own soul retrieval and this piece had to come home, I had to work with that piece and be like, you're not a burden. And my husband and I, we went hiking, and it was a little bit adventurous of a hike for me. And he literally had to hold my hand the entire time, like I was an invalid, as I had a walking stick, and he's holding my hand, and I was unstable. And it was so funny. It was the thoughts came back of, I'm a burden. This is ridiculous. I'm inhibiting my husband and my little one from having a great hike. And I had to stop it and be like, no, you're not going there. You're not going into the victimhood and the blaming. You're going to go into, holy shit, you're doing this hike.
Mm-hmm.
And so then it allowed the piece to settle. So my point of all this is people want the magic pill, but they don't want the hard work.
Yep.
And true
And actually, yeah, go, Sarge, go.
True healers don't actually heal you. They just remind you of who you are. So whether or not they blow pieces back in or they fix an energy field, it's all about reminding you of who you are so that you can continue the healing going forward.
Yes.
And there are no magic pills.
No.
Be nice if there was. I'd take like 5. I'd OD.
But what would happen if you had the magic pill? What would life mean to you if you were this perfectly healed person and everything around you wasn't?
I don't know, that's a good question. But see, I think my definitions of what perfectly healed person has totally changed. 10 years ago, it would have been someone who was thin and beautiful and athletic and on top of the world and making a ton of money. That would have been the definition. And now my definition is my goal is to love the ever-living crap out of myself so that I can walk in my true power. That's my goal. That it would be the magic pill for me. So it's totally changed.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. What's your magic pill?
I don't know. Sitting on a beach. I've always wanted a yacht so I could sit on the beach.
Wait a minute, that makes no sense.
Because you can have a yacht, because when it gets stormy, you jump in the yacht and just get thrown around. I don't know. I really don't know. It's like, I used to think that having wealth was really good, and then but having that, and you got to work for it, and it's the Monday to Friday 9 to 5 ritual of waking up in the morning, going to work, and just having so many different things. And now I've just remembered what I wanted to say about not wanting to deal with the issues, and I'm going to go back to that because what I found and what I'm finding in my own observations in the medical system is that they're so GPs are so quick to prescribe antidepressants to help people that are wanting to look at dealing with emotional issues and upheavals that they're experiencing through hardships, through traumas, through whatever. And I'm finding that I don't think this whole concept of antidepressants is a really good idea because it numbs the pain, it keeps us stable, and then all we start doing is just functioning in a mundane ritual rather than dealing with the emotions or looking at the issues. Sometime in 2014, 15, somewhere in there, I actually walked away from the medical system and started looking at the holistic aspect because it's like the antidepressants didn't really work. I was giving my power to the medical system, saying, they labeled me with ADD, ADHD, bipolar, whatever, all these bloody conditions that don't even exist. because it turned out to be, after all these years, that it was really a vitamin B deficiency. And it was just the same symptoms, but the body couldn't handle vitamin B and break it down, so that it bring on these onset of symptoms. Anyway, so what I'm finding is that a lot of people are being caught up, especially in these hard, challenging times, and they're being given the antidepressants. So what I'm finding now, because of the legislation saying that you must have seen a doctor, I'm having a hard time trying to say that, well, I did have assistance during this struggle, but I didn't go to the doctor because all the doctor wanted to do was give me drugs.
Right.
And it seems that there is a lot of control and restrictions in the medical system of people trying to step into their power because they have the authority on how your health should be.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I take antidepressants of the view a little bit differently. I was on antidepressants for a majority of my life. And when I started to meditate and find alternatives for my anxiety, I was able to wean off of them. I can look at them now and I'm very grateful for the years that I was on them, because I didn't have the tools at the time to do anything different. And so my depression came out as anger, and no one needs that. So it's an interesting thing. For me, I needed it. It was absolutely perfect. And when I learned the tools to do something different, I did.
Yeah.
So, when a client comes to me and they're telling me they're on antidepressants, okay, well, let's see what we can do. What can we do to manage your anxiety and depression in other ways so that you feel free enough to get off this medication? Because we also have, then on the other end of the spectrum, we have people who are miserably depressed and they're angry and they're not able to peek their head above the water. And then you have the spiritual people saying, well, meditate then. You can't. So sometimes you do need that bridger. But if we take a bridger and then we beat ourselves up for taking the bridger, then we've just messed everything up. So I think when we look at the medical system, there needs to be a little bit of neutrality. Not everything is bad and not everything is good. And if you're taking antidepressants because you need it and you see it as a good thing, it's going to be a good thing for you. If you see it as in they just want to drug me, this stuff is poison, guess what? That's exactly what it's going to do in your body. So, my view is a little bit different. It really is, and I know that it's not a popular view, but it's just from my experience. So my thing is, what I wish the medical system would do is teach alternatives to. Okay, so you got panic disorder, you're depressed, you're anxious. What can we fix? What vitamins do you need? What about meditation? What about increasing exercise? What about all of these things before applying someone with medicine? So there needs to be that holistic approach, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, so true. Because what I found for me is that I had so many questions and I didn't get enough answers, so I went to walked down another avenue to the whole holistic approach, where I started finding more and more answers. Mm-hmm. And then I just went, well, I refuse to walk down the whole drug therapy regime. Why are you so quick to hand out medication? Why is there no training on how to work with the emotions?
Exactly. So it's not that I vilify the medication. It's that I think that
it's just a tool.
It's just a tool, and it should be a brief tool. Just one to get someone clear enough or numb enough, depending on which it is, so that you can then take a step back and look at your life and make true changes. But if you're in absolute panic mode, you're so stressed that every little instance, your jeans rip, and it's a nightmare for you because you are just tapped out. You have nowhere to go with your stress level. If something can bring the stress level down so that you can breathe, then it's essential.
Yeah, it is essential. I mean, when they gave it to me the first time, the only reason why is because it was just some scan that said you don't have serotonin, so we'll give it to you.
Sure. Yep.
And then it's just like everything after that was just weird. I don't really remember much, but when the doctor tried to give it to me this time, I was like, no. If I'm feeling depressed, let's dig in.
Yes. Yep.
Let's find the root cause so that we can deal with it rather than trying to run away, like alcoholism and going to, like, I really wanted to do the work this time.
Right. I mean, in my view, it could very well be that the clients that I have that are on antidepressants are doing the extra work. And a lot of times it's like, I'm thinking about weaning off of this because I'm doing okay now. I mean, let's be honest, neither one of us see the clients who are just going to blindly accept pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
And not try other methods. You know, that's not the world that we're in. But we do have the issue in the spiritual community of vilifying all pharmaceuticals. I learned that lesson really well in 2013. I was, I'll never take another drug again, and medical system is terrible. Well, I wind up getting sick, and I tried every herb in the freaking book. I was on Facebook. Okay, what do I do about this? I was Googling everything, like, how do I heal myself? The entire time, at the same time, I'm kicking myself in the ass because I'm not able to heal myself. Well, finally, after a month, my husband threatens me. He said, if you don't get yourself to a doctor, I'm taking you to the ER. So I get myself to the doctor the next day. I had full-blown pneumonia, bad. And I needed antibiotics. And I mean, it had just, at this point, it was sinus and ears, it was in the chest, it was deep in the lower lobes of the lungs, and a course of antibiotics, and it straightened me right up. I was so busy vilifying the medical system that I made myself miserable for over a month. So for me, it's all about balance. I mean, if I have a sinus headache, do I run and get antibiotics? No. But if I'm sick, I was running like 103, 104 fevers. Yeah, I'm never going to do something so stupid again. But I had to learn it.
Yeah. And
I had to step back and go, all these people telling me that I should have healed myself and that there's something wrong with me if I go to the doctor, they're not in my body. And then it's also the realization that, yes, we have issues with our medical system. We know this. It's been taken over by greed and profit. But doctors aren't villains.
No.
And they truly want to help you. And in many cases, their hands are tied. My sister's a physician's assistant in an ER in the States, and she said, someone comes in with massive migraines, and she, like, every fiber of her being is saying, you need magnesium. And she can't tell them that because it's a supplement and she could lose her license. So she kind of works around it, and she's like, try eating more leafy greens, but at the same time as she's writing the prescription. So yes, there's major limitations, but the people themselves are not bad. Mm-hmm. And the whole purpose of the medical field is to help you when you absolutely need it. We've used it in our culture, particularly with children, more as a crutch. It's that, the minute there's a sniffle, oh my God, they've got snot coming out of their nose, take them in and get an antibiotic. And that's where we run into problems. But to blindly say, I will never take an antibiotic, I will never go to the dentist, I will never go to the doctor, is really cutting yourself off from help that is available.
Did you know that in some countries, and I only just found this out on Saturday just gone, they have a clinic where they have a medical GP and a medicine man, and the medicine man will say, this is not my field, go see the GP, and the GP will say, this is not my field, go see the medicine man.
Isn't that beautiful? Because neither one is complete without the other.
Yeah.
I mean, there are times when the body needs assistance. And it could be that you would go out and you would collect the herbs to fix yourself. But that knowledge isn't to the forefront anymore. And to knock yourself up and say, well, I'm not going to the doctor, or I'm not taking this, that's like a dog saying, my stomach hurts and there's grass out there that'll help me, but I'm not going to eat it because I'm not going to let the grass tell me what to do. That's dumb.
Yeah, it's so true. And it's like one of the theories visions, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, I'm going to call it theory, that the medical system is pretty much the commercialized business of the ancient druids.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because the ancient druids, like if you go back to the King Arthur and Camelot period of time, where you had the one that would walk around and do all these herbs and medicines and everything else like that, that's what we're dealing with today in terms of Panadol, aspirin.
Sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. Well, they're actually trying in America now. They're trying to figure out how to take THC that's in marijuana and put it into pills so that people will pay for it that way instead of actually, working on, going to a dispensary and getting marijuana or edibles and things like that and self-treating. And they're doing it for profit. Don't get me wrong. Absolutely. They're like, wait a minute, there's a whole population of people that are no longer taking pharmaceuticals because they're using marijuana to treat things and they want in on that money game. So yeah, is there greed? Is there some in the medical community? Absolutely.
Well, I think it was in some states in the US when they've legalized marijuana, so Marlboro has marijuana cigarettes.
Yeah, I've seen that, but here I'm in Colorado and it is legal. It's recreational and medical, and I've never seen the cigarettes, so I don't know.
Yeah, I just saw a picture one day. I'm like, oh, cool.
Well, and it's very much like the magic mushrooms. Some countries have shown that to give someone magic mushrooms if they have severe depression, all of a sudden it snaps them out of it, and they may only need to do it once every 6 months. So now you've got pharmaceutical makers that are trying to tap into whatever the chemical compound is that helps with the depression so that they can sell it to you in a pill. So we've got a lot of interesting stuff going on. But the whole entire thing is balance. It's just balance. And we can't totally vilify anything, because I gotta tell you, if somebody's really struggling and they can't see past their own nose, and for a healer to say, well, you need to meditate and you need to go walk in nature, and they can't get out of bed, to then say, well, if you take that pill, something's wrong with you, is cruel.
And this is where we're going back into the discernment topic, because there are people that are running around saying that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't go to a Reiki master for a heart surgery, that's for sure.
Exactly. Yep.
So, and this is the whole topic of discernment, where people need to really trust themselves, and we need to teach people on how to discern their own information. One of the things that flared me up is during the period of the expo that I was presenting at, I was handing out crystals that are attuned to my spirit guide Amy. We were sending it to everyone. We gave out 100 crystals in total on the Saturday and the Sunday of the expo. It was all, and what we were seeing was people's frequency were raising. We've actually got photographic evidence of what happens to the auric field without the crystal, with the crystal in one hand, with the crystal in both hands, and that's pretty special.
That's the coolest.
And yeah, it's really remarkable, and I've got to send you these photos. It is just amazing. But once someone turned around, and this is someone who runs his own teaching school in somewhere else, from what I understand. I didn't comment on him. I don't know him, so I don't know. But one of my friends shared it to me and said that what is happening is that people are running around saying, do not accept crystals from people that are handing them out as gifts because they are cursed with black magic and dark forces and blah, 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 blah. And I really wanted to respond to this and saying, well, no, you've got to teach the people discernment, because whilst if we're saying that what you were saying is true, you also got those that are running around with their masters and their cellos handing out crystals as well that are attuned to the higher frequency. So if you're going to turn around and say, do not take these crystals, and someone's turned up and has got an ascended master that's incarnated or whatever it is, handing out a crystal to you, that person is going to turn around and not take it because of some other issue that you've created, and that could have been the difference between shifting the frequency of that incarnate and not.
Right. No, that's
so when I wrote that comment in just my little group chat, a friend of mine actually copied it and sent it to that other person, and that person deleted that post.
Yeah, because they were coming from a place of goodness, not necessarily fear, but they were saying, hey, there's some crappy stuff going on out there, so don't take anything. Not realizing that to put that fear out there instead of discernment, they could then be blocking the flow of all that's good. And the thing is, it is all about discernment. If you pick up a crystal and it feels funky, put it down. Well, put it down and trust yourself. I don't care what someone says. If it feels funky, put it down.
Yeah.
If someone...
You'll probably... One of the things that you'll find is that when you look at a crystal and it feels funky, don't pick it up.
Yeah. Yep.
And what was interesting is that after that, like I knew that the person was coming from a place of love and kindness, but there are two aspects to every story.
Sure.
And then he removed that post, and then 2 days later, someone else shared pretty much something very similar, and I just went, oh my gosh, this is getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
And to listen to someone who's posting that don't take these crystals, or don't take these antibiotics, or don't go to this healer, or don't do this. If you listen without checking in with your own self, you just gave away your power.
Yeah.
So, it's very much everyone has to do exactly what's right for them. We had talked before about diet, and there was a phase that I went through that I didn't want meat at all. I was completely vegetarian. I was really a great vegetarian. It was easy. If I did eat meat, it tasted disgusting. And then I started going through a phase of, I'm really wanting meat. I'm really wanting meat. And I told myself, no, because meat will lower your vibration, and you're working on opening yourself more and more. So a good 6 months went by of me craving meat, and I started eating the meat substitutes, which for women, any type of soy is a freaking nightmare. So then I messed up my whole hormonal system. Instead of just listening and eating meat. And it wasn't until I fell down the stairs, and I have a spinal fusion. So anytime that you do something like that, it's terrifying, because I've already had one fail, and just to hit that ground really hard on your butt and to go, oh crap, did I just misalign this metal, and am I now in trouble? It's terrifying. And I was surrounded immediately, so part of my team, and they said, are you done yet? And I said, what do you mean? Like, there was no sympathy. And it was, will you please listen to your body and eat meat? Because I was getting so dizzy. I couldn't stay in my body. I was so ungrounded. And doing my work, I tend to unground myself, and I hook into the universal flow, and then I have to ground myself to get back in. But what was happening is I wasn't grounding myself to get back in properly. It was as if the frequency was getting so high in my body, I just couldn't stay in. And
what year was this?
The falling down the stairs was beginning of 2016.
Okay.
The vegetarian was 2014.
That makes a lot of sense. In 2014, I was told to stop eating meat because I had to rapidly raise my vibration.
Mm-hmm. Same here.
And they said that you do it now, you do it quickly, and then there will be a time when you come and start eating meat again.
Well, I didn't hear that whole part about there'll be a time when you start to eat meat again. And I wrapped myself up into the beliefs of what others are saying. And I'm going to tell you, there's two groups right now where there's huge discussions going on about how unless you're vegan, you're not spiritual, which is just crap. Okay, it's just crap, because there's good meat eaters and there's bad meat eaters. There's good vegans, there's bad vegans. It all depends on who you are and where your heart space is, not on what necessarily your diet is. So after I fell down the stairs, the guys are saying, you have to eat meat. And so I just started switching, and I would do, grass-fed beef, and just, I added more of fish in, things like that. And I just tried to make sure that everything I was purchasing was decent for me, healthy, organic, slaughtered in love as much as possible. And I would, of course, just always transmute the food and ask it to be the highest possible vibration to match me. And a huge change happened, because at that time, once I started and I got my system regulated, I actually started accepting more light codes than I had in a little bit. Because it was almost like they were holding back, saying, we can't give her anymore. She's just going to leave her body. She's dangerous. All of this entire process is going to be done so that you're okay. And I know that sounds funny for, when you're going through some of this physical insanity, that the thought is that it's still not killing you. And so things were held off. And it was after I started eating meat and I got over my own belief system that was given to me by others, but that I accepted fully, then I started seeing the growth again. And I'm like, okay, good. And so now I'm just listening to my body, and I'm finding I'm actually starting to lighten up again. There's been a couple nights this week where I haven't had meat, and that's fine, and I feel okay. But the minute I start to feel that, I'm not fully here feeling, I'm going to go eat a burger. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to beat myself up over it anymore, because again, we haven't been here before. We don't know what it's going to take.
I had that feeling just today, going, I don't feel grounded. My mind is racing. I don't feel grounded at all. Mm-hmm. And then I turned around and said to a friend of mine, does meat ground? Because I really think I need to have a steak sandwich.
Yeah. Did you eat it?
No, I ended up having a seafood pizza.
Did it ground you?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
But I know tomorrow I'm going for a big steak sandwich.
Yeah. And you may find that you feel better. And, it's such a sticky subject out there, so I'm sure we're going to get some comments on this. About, oh my God, how can you do that? The truth is, I just have to listen to my body and my guides. I have to. I have no other option. To do anything less causes me pain. And falling down the freaking stairs.
Yeah. Totally get it. So I really think that this whole discernment is very, very important.
I do too. And but that discernment, we use the word discernment, but isn't it really just walking in your own power?
Yes, it's trusting your own instincts and not having to rely on others.
Yeah.
And that's a big lesson in itself.
Yeah. And it's so funny. I have so many healers that will come to me, and they're always like, I really should be trusting my own guidance. And I tell people, I'm like, I go to people too. And it's not that I don't trust my guidance, but sometimes I just want validation for what I am getting to make sure I'm seeing the forest for the trees. Sometimes some of my interpretation to my own personal life isn't 100% accurate. And then somebody can say, well, have you considered this? And then I check what they're saying against my own system and go, yeah, you're right. Or no, that's not it. And so it's not so much that you have to isolate yourself and not talk to others. It's that you realize you're the authority at the end of the day.
Yeah. There's only, yeah, that's so true. And I've experienced that this week as well.
Well, and it's funny because I've got 3 kids and I'm a nosy mom and I want to know what's going on. And there have been times that the guides have said to me, it is none of your business. I'm like, oh, come on. And so sometimes if I'm really concerned with my kids, I hook up with somebody I really like how they work, and I ask questions, and generally the responses are so vague. If I'm asking about one of my daughters, it's like their path is perfect and they're going to be okay. And even though it doesn't answer my questions per se, it's enough to calm me to the point where I'm like, okay, all right. And it kind of calms that whole human mom thing, because being a mom is one of my most human things that I do. I mean, after this, I got to go pick up a couple kids for a play date.
In the last session that Rebecca Dawson gave, she was saying that when it comes to children, let them be children, and you just focus on you.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the things that Amy says is that even if we're an adult, let's just all be big children, because for some reason we get caught up in the hype of thinking that we need to grow up, and by growing up we must have debt.
Yes. Yep. And that we must not have fun anymore, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I love being a very big kid.
Yeah, I do too. And I'm very grateful for my little one, because she came in right at the right time to help me be a child again, and to laugh and be silly and to imagine and play. And so, these kids are amazing. They really are. And, we've joked before that, sometimes if I'm working too much or I'm feeling rough, that little one will come in and, Mom, you need to go outside. You need to go sit with the mother. And I'm like, okay. So it's funny, because the wisdom in them is incredible.
All right. That sounds absolutely amazing. All right. So I think we should start wrapping this up, yeah?
Yeah, I think we've covered every topic under the book.
Are you saying there was homework?
Yeah.
There was
lots
a book to read?
Yeah, lots of homework.
Oh. I don't like reading books.
Really?
I love it. No, I don't like reading books because it takes too long. I'd rather just go out and explore and experience it myself.
Oh, I'm a reader. I like to read.
Yeah. I like comic books because I have pictures.
That's Maddie. I can get her to read a comic book every day.
But it comes to a real book? No thanks.
Nope. That's her. Yep. But if I get her to read 20 minutes of a comic book, it's good. It's still reading.
It's great. All right. It's almost 1 o'clock here, so...
All right.
I think we should... Yeah, that was really awesome. I loved it, and I'm sure that there's going to be so much more information that we want to talk about.
Yep.
And I'm sure that there is so much more that Amy wants to talk about, and so much more that your team wants to talk about.
Sure. I mean, and we're both open to, if somebody wants us to address a topic, we're open to that. Email us. Let us know. Because sometimes, where we're at in this process, we don't see, those who are at the very beginning, and we may be missing something. So we're both open to receiving suggestions on what we need to address as we move forward in this process.
It reminds me of a project that I've been wanting to start up, and it's going, do you remember when you had your awakening? Because how did you get the answers that you were looking for, and did you have someone to talk to? And I'm like, that's a very interesting thought, because I only ever had one person to talk to, and then I met a healer, and then I met a psychic, and then I'm just like, there's so much information, how about we just have people that ask questions?
Yeah. Yep.
And then it's like we're helping them accelerate through what we spent years trying to go through.
Yeah, because it doesn't have to be that difficult.
No. We've walked it, we've found the tools, so we can share it. Exactly.
And also just, you talk about when we were first awakening, I mean, the first person I really came in contact with was somebody who was very much into the negativity and there's horrible human beings on this earth, and it slanted everything. And that was part of the discernment, like all the anxiety I felt when talking with this person, I thought it was because of what she was saying. And she said, well, if you feel that, then you know it's true. And now I know if I feel that type of anxiety talking to someone, it means the information isn't for me. It doesn't match my reality. But it took me quite a bit to learn. And I spent a year really believing that the world was getting ready to end and 7 billion people were getting ready to die with the pole shifts. And I went really far into that and was miserable. And you don't receive divine guidance when you are miserable. It's not that they can't connect with you, it's that you may not hear properly. Everything is through a filter of pain.
Okay, yes, that's true. Okay, so this is something that Amy has taught me. The reason why you do not get as much assistance is because during that process, you have the greatest opportunity to change, and a spirit guide cannot intervene because it's considered intervention, and it takes the free will away from the incarnate. So the only things that can get through in that upheaval, when there's all these cobwebs and energy shifts going on within the auric field, are the archangels and the ascended masters, and that's it.
Oh, very interesting.
So when you're going through these traumatic experience, tough times, the spirit guide cannot communicate because of the disruption within the energy fields. So all they can do is really just say, hey, we're here for you, and it's up to you to make the decision on which path you're going to walk. This is your opportunity to change. So sometimes in that moment, an archangel will have to come forward because they can connect, they can get through and push the cobwebs aside and come and connect to you to give you a little bit of guidance.
That makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. That's a big topic on itself. But yeah. That's why when you're miserable, you didn't feel like you had much assistance because your spirit guide couldn't connect you, and that's your first line of connection to all these guide realms.
Yep, and that makes a lot of sense. And I can even see where clients who are lost in that negativity, and they're so frustrated because they cannot connect, but I can always connect them with Archangel Michael.
Yeah. Because he can cut through. You can cut through the crap in the energy fields. Because it's like, imagine yourself. So a lot of the times when we're working on our emotional systems, we're like trying to clear ourselves as like white light your energy fields and everything. So imagine that there you are in an emotional upheaval. Your entire energy field is grey, and within that greyness is cobwebs everywhere. So how can communications get through when it's getting all this cobwebs and greyness and everything else like this?
Mm-hmm.
So the only way that they can get through is one big burst, and an archangel will get in. There we go.
Yep, that makes complete sense. Complete.
And when they disconnect, the mud goes back.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's up to the person to make a decision as to where they're going to take their life.
Yeah.
It's the greatest opportunity for change. So that is why emotional upheaval is one of the greatest things that you can ever experience, because it's life-changing.
Yeah, it just stinks while you're going through it.
And that is how it was during the middle of an emotional upheaval is how I created the heart activation music.
Yeah, makes sense.
So the greatest creations can come from that very single moment.
Well, in order to truly tap into creation, you have to also be in your shadow.
Interesting.
You have to accept it. I mean, look at some of our great playwrights and some of the stuff that they write. You're like, holy cow. It's because they tapped into and they accepted their shadow. And so they're just exploring it without judgment.
Yeah. One of the tracks that I'm going to eventually work on will be working with the emotion of grief. So what I have to do is actually go back and tap into that emotion and sit in the emotion of grief in order to write the music.
That makes sense.
So that way you can then you can build it up and go from the feeling of grief, because when you're grieving, you want to have that emotion explored, and then you slowly build it up into happiness. And that way you can work with the emotion, and the emotion goes with the music.
Well, and it's also a good way to release it as well.
Yeah. So, very interesting stuff. I don't want to experience the grief, but I want to jump back into the emotion of it.
Well, you might be able to jump back into it as the point of the observer without attaching to it.
Yeah, I love that idea.
All right, Steve.
Because I've experienced.
Fantastic.
Yes, it has been. I love it. Let's do it again.
All right, sounds good. Have a fantastic night.
You too.
Thank you.
Enjoy the day.
All right.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Have fun. Bye.